Hey, working mom. Before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to remind you that the Empowering the Working Mom breakfast is just around the corner. If you have not purchased your tickets, if this is your first time hearing about it, please go to empoweringtheworkingmom.com, www.empoweringtheworkingmom.com to learn more about it. Get your ticket today before there are no more tickets left. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to Empowering the Working Mom podcast, the place where working moms find inspiration, support, and practical advice to thrive in their professional and personal lives while aligning it all with God. I'm your host, Latika Vines, a fellow working mom on a mission to empower you to embrace your God-given strength and resilience of balancing work and life while leading you to align it all with God. Twice monthly, we'll delve into topics that matter to you, from time management, advancing your career, mental health, your relationship with God, and so much more. Get ready for insightful interviews with inspiring working moms, experts, and thought leaders who'll share their wisdom, their experiences, their prayers, and their Tabitha moments. Because together, we can break down barriers, defy stereotypes, and rewrite the narrative of being a working mom. So get ready for your empowering moment. Welcome to the Empowering Working Mom podcast. Hey, working moms. Welcome to this episode of the Latika Vines show. I am so excited that you are here with us again this week. I am here to give you an empowering moment to help you take the initiative to align your work-life balance and your career vision with God. And in this season, we're diving into something every working mom needs more of, but really prioritizes, and that's rest. And to help us unpack this very essential topic, I am joined by our guest, very special guest, my very special guest, Dr. Linette, who is on a mission to shed societal shoulds and redefine the rules of success. But before we introduce our guest, if this topic resonates with you, share it with the first working mom who comes to your mind. And don't forget to check out the show notes with all of the important updates within the community. Now, are you excited about today's guest? I am beyond excited. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Linette. She has a 36-year portfolio, including 5 advanced degrees, yep, 5, and 16 years of performance improvement advising for small to mid-sized companies, and also 20 years of a profitability strategist for entrepreneurs, consultants, and local service providers. So important. She also is known as the legacy influencer, where she customizes her signature profitable empires framework for women CEOs and founders to harmonize business success with personal happiness. So important. And when she's not leading profitable empires, Dr. Linette can be found serving as president at Intercultural Voices, hosting exclusive legacy influencer events for CEO women, or making a difference in the lives of teen girls and young adults through her initiative. Now, what sets her apart is her belief that high achieving women can be happy, healthy, and wealthy. And get this, that superwoman, that superwoman cape, you know, that Karen White song that we always sing, that cape is no longer desired. No longer desired. I am so happy to have her on today. Dr. Linette, thank you so much for joining us on Empowering the Working Mom podcast. Can you share with us a little bit about yourself and name one thing that has helped you to regain the power or authority to align your life and your career with God?
Oh boy, you start off hot and sizzly, huh? So, first, let me say thank you, of course, for being here. It is a pleasure always. And I am excited to share with your community. We are just going to jump right in. I have no filter, so you guys need to be ready. Put your boots on. And so, you've done such a great job of sharing my accolades. What I want to talk about is the mom, because we all know that those accolades are wonderful. I've done some amazing things in business. I have some amazing degrees. But first and foremost for me, it's my kids. It's always my kids. It's always been my kids. It will always be my kids. As a matter of fact, so much so that I actually walked away from $1 million company because my daughter got sick out of nowhere and I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have time to sell the business. I literally put a lock on the door and walked away from $1 million company. So when I say moms come first, we can have amazing things going on in our lives. We will drop it all for our kids. So when I talk about children, I have two biological children. My oldest is 33 and my youngest is 27. However, I also have raised 12 therapeutic foster care children. So when we talk about how do you manage, how do you juggle, how do you make all of this work? At one point in my life, let's see, for how many years? I want to say, if I can remember now, for about 7 years, I had 12 children living in my house. 12 from the age of a newborn up to 14 years old. You want to talk about how long it took for us to get ready for church? Woo! It was like going on vacation. We had a whole routine, right? So I want to share that with you because I don't want you to take lightly whatever else I share while we're spending this time together. I've been there. I understand. I know it's not easy. I had a job, I had a business, I had a husband, and I had 12 children living in my house. So I get it. And as far as your question, the one word, oh boy, the word for me is forgiveness. That's
We're
the
gonna
word.
yeah, we're gonna have to let that sit for a second. Forgiveness.
That's the word.
Forgiveness. Unpack that because so many of us do not know how to forgive ourselves. We don't. How, how, why, what? The five W's.
Yeah.
How do you forgive? How do you forgive when you can't even be present with today?
Yeah. If you'd asked me what the word was a few years ago, even, I don't know. I probably would have said something like tenacity, something that would seem typical. Today, I know that it's forgiveness. And here's what I mean by we're going to go boot deep. When I come and spend time with people's community, I don't sugarcoat. I don't hold back. And here's what I want you guys to know. Here's the story I want you to hear. Here's the heart I want you to understand. During this time, so I've been married more than once, but it's the last husband that I want to talk about because this is where the forgiveness. There was a lot of things I needed to forgive up until this point in my life. I've been bullied as a kid. And believe it or not, I was bullied because I was too brown, and I was bullied because I was too smart, and I was bullied because I was kind. I've always been a kind person, and those are the things I was bullied for. So, from a very young age, I have a lot of stories I can tell you about needing to learn forgiveness, but I didn't really learn them. I just traveled through life and I carried them with me deep inside. I heard people talk about forgiveness and I heard people talk about, oh, well, you can forgive, but you never forget. It's a whole lot of cliches going on around it. But this last husband, that was a different story. This was a test of not only my faith, my belief, my purpose in life, my forgiveness of others, and my forgiveness of myself, but it was a true test of my forgiving God. Yes, I said that because we want to act like we don't get mad at God. We want to act like everything is peachy when it comes to God. But the truth is, we get mad with God too. And we have to also learn to forgive. So here I was, I've always done the right thing in life. I've just been that kind of person. I got married before I had kids. I went to college. I've always done everything the way that societal shoulds tell us we ought to. Got the good job. I did all that. So one day someone was telling me about God. I became a Christian. Wonderful. Then they said this thing about don't be unequally yoked. Okay, great. I got that too, right? So I married a pastor. What? This was the greatest thing ever. You're married to a pastor. You would not be unequally yoked. Well, let's fast forward. This was a pastor who was amazing in that pulpit, but then when we got home, he would chase me through the house with a loaded gun. Now, where do you find God in the midst of that situation? Because for me, we're walking around town, you have on a priest collar, you're praying for everyone and everything, you're going to visit the sick and shut in, you're laying hands on the people in the church, you're preaching the word. And so I am sitting here every day asking, where's the lightning bolt, God? Where's the lightning bolt? I'm not understanding because he's not a regular person. I know he's a human person. I know that we all have faults and we all have sin, but he's not a regular person. If you called him to lead your people, what in the world is happening here? And since I didn't grow up in church, I really didn't understand what I was supposed to do. And everyone kept telling me that getting a divorce was a sin. So now I'm thinking, wait, something is not connecting here. Getting a divorce is a sin, but what he's doing isn't a sin. I'm confused. And so it took years for me to untangle all of that confusion in my mind, the confusion between what the word says and what I believe God means for us and what I was seeing happening in my life. And no one knew. It's an amazing story. There's actually some conversation about this story being a movie because it involves the DEA, the FBI, the mafia. It's a whole story. So I was in fear of my life, not just from him, but from this whole narcissistic thing that he put together that kept me in fear. And his statement to me was always, I'm not abusive because I've never put my hands on you. And he's right, he never did. But chasing someone through the house with a loaded gun is probably worse. I honestly, being a girl from the Bronx, if he had hit me, we probably would have been scrapping until one of us didn't get up. But what he did was so much more calculated than that. And so let's get back to the forgiveness. I had to learn to forgive him because the amount of anger, when I finally figured out how to get out of that marriage alive, the amount of anger that I had towards him, it's natural. What would most people feel like? What would they hold inside of them towards someone who treated them this way? So there was that unforgiveness. Then there was the unforgiveness for myself because I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're educated, you're smart, you have all these degrees, you're a Christian, all these things. How did you even wind up here? How did you even get here? Like, what in the world? How did you not know? How did you not see the signs? How did you? It's all of the judgment that we have against ourselves when we make a bad decision, because we're going to make them. This is not the decision to have cheesecake when you know you're lactose intolerant and now your belly hurts, right? That's a bad decision. You take some Tums and you keep it moving. This was a life altering bad decision that could have had major implications to my children. They were not his children, and he was so smart that he would always be the perfect stepfather when my kids were home. But my kids had equal visitation with their father, my previous husband. So they weren't home on weekends. They weren't home for holidays. They weren't home for long breaks like the Christmas break from school and spring break. They weren't home all summer. They were with their dad. So he had plenty of time to be the other him, right? And then the hardest journey of all was the forgiveness for God. I had to learn, how do I forgive God even when I don't know why? See, we want to wait until we know how the story ends. We want to wait until we know, why, God, did you let this happen, before we can forgive. And that's not how this works. It's not how this works. You need to forgive before you are ever going to know the why, and before you will ever see the road of the how or the what's next.
Amen. Amen. That is so important, period. Um, because in order for you to reconnect with yourself, prioritize yourself, you're going to have to let forgiveness rule over you. You're going to have to surrender whatever that thing is and seek the forgiveness. Because you can't work on yourself. You can't prioritize yourself. You can't know your own worth if you're still holding on to unforgiveness, if you're still holding on to that pain and disappointment and shame and all the other things. And what I fully know is that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And when he is involved, he will do everything to keep your mind, body, and soul away from forgiveness. And so it's so important for us to understand what forgiveness is, what that definition is, identify what needs to be forgiven and who attached to that what needs to be forgiven, and then how you do so. And you cannot do it without God. You cannot do it without understanding how He is the God of forgiveness, how He forgives us daily. And so that's such an important thing for us to recognize, that we have to forgive, and forgive first before we even able to reconnect with ourselves. Reconnect with ourselves. And it makes me really think about, so you talk about forgiveness and how forgiveness has healed you. It's given you peace, and the list goes on, but it's also given you success. So how do you define success or redefine success when you've had to forgive so that you can prioritize or reconnect with who you are?
Mm. That's such a great question. And especially for me, because my whole mission is about shedding those shoulds and redefining the rules of success. We've been told, especially as women, how to dress and how to sit and how to talk and how to walk and what to say and how to say it. And the reality is that none of those things necessarily align with our purpose at all. And so, my answer to your question is this: success to me really is your legacy. It's about legacy. But what I want people to hear and really, really digest, legacy is not what you are going to leave when you're gone, because by then it's too late. Legacy is how you live right now, every single day. Every moment, every step, every word, every breath is what your children and your grandchildren and your colleagues and your friends, that's what they see. And those are the seeds that you are planting. And so when you talk about success, that's what success is. Your true success is not what you're seeing right now. Your success is not the dollars in the bank. Your success is not the numbers on a scale. That's your existence. Your success is not something that you will probably ever see, or you'll see it from heaven or the other side of wherever you're going. I hope it's heaven. And so that's really, really, in my definition, that's what success is. You're not necessarily going to experience that success, not in this human body on this earth, right? So when you think about success, I want to invite you to think about, what would you like your future self, your future life, right? Your children, your great grandchildren, what would you like their life to look like? Not just your children. Like, I want you to go deep. I want you to go way ahead. There is a such thing as ancestral trauma, right? You want to go deep into the future and then work backwards in order for your great 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 grandchildren to live free, to be happy, to be healthy, to whatever. What do you need to do now for that? Not what do you need to do now for now? Because I want to repeat, now is existence. You can exist in joy. You can exist in abundance. You can exist in all of that. And that's not what I define as success. So for me, success is your legacy.
That is so good. That is so good. And even the Bible shares that you are supposed to leave a legacy for your children's children and forth. And that legacy, yeah, money, homes, all of that is great. But what is it that you want your kids to experience? And I've often thought about that. And it's so interesting because, just through my reading, when I think about Adam and Eve and their kids, when I think about King David, when I think about Ruth, I think about all of these people who have the lineage of Jesus Christ. And it's just like, wow, that is so amazing that there is something that they left for Jesus. There's something that they left, and it was just like, wow. And because of them being on that bloodline, they can be in heaven. Like, it just, to me, it just blows my mind that we have to rethink or reprioritize how we think about legacy and what success is. So thank you for sharing that because I think so many of us get stuck in the existence and never think about the future generations behind us.
Yeah.
That's so important for us to always remember. And when we're thinking about that success, that legacy, how do we harmonize the life and work? Because we're trying to do it and we're thinking about the future while we're existing, but how do we do both? How would you life and work at the same time?
Yeah. I love your questions because I like deep. I like to go deep. So this is so much fun. The word that comes to me, that's interesting. The spirit speaks when it speaks, right? So the initial word that came to me was prioritizing. And then the word that came to me immediately after is purpose. Because we are spending so much time doing and not enough time being. And I had to learn the difference. I had to learn the difference. Doing is, I'm not against doing, right? We need to do things, but we're not doing the right things. That saying, work smarter, not harder, is actually a lie. It's a lie. It sounds great, but it's really a lie. Or should I say, it's a half truth. And I had to learn that. I had a coach a long time ago teach this, and it blew my mind. And the example that this coach gave, I want to share so people can rethink the way that they see this. Work smarter, not harder. We definitely don't want to work harder. Everybody gets that. But let's imagine that you're in a room and you need to escape this room. Working harder would be you going over and using your bare hands to try to bang down the wall or knock down the wall or claw at the wall to try to get out of this room. Eventually it's going to work. It's just sheetrock, right? And so you can punch holes in it, you can start clawing at it, you can do all that. That's working harder. Working smarter would be go and get a sledgehammer, right? Go and get some big tool to knock a hole in the wall, knock holes, not whatever. Go and get a saw. Go and get whatever it is that is going to make the job smarter. But when you're working right, you just go open the door. So if you never hear anything else, if you don't remember anything else that I share today, I want you to reframe the difference between working harder, working smarter, and working right. And so every day we are doing lots of amazing things. But are they the right things? Are they the things that move the needle in your health, in your mindset, in your family, in your relationships, in your walk with God, in anything and everything that you do as an employee, as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter? Are you doing harder, smarter, or are you doing right? And the key to the answer is your purpose. Why are you here? Why are you here? I know I'm here for such a time as this conversation. I didn't grow up in an abusive family. I didn't grow up being abused. I didn't know anything about that. But all of the foster care children I specialized in had been physically and sexually abused. And this was before I ever married the husband I told you about. When that happened to me and I asked God, why me? God's answer was, aside from the fact that he knew I could bear. He knew how much I could bear, right? But he said to me, "It happened to you, and what happened to you was horrible, but it wasn't for you. It was so that you could help other women who are or who were in that situation, because abuse has been considered to be done to people who are in low income, low, whatever, intellect or education or poverty, or it's been viewed as being a physical abuse only. The issue of pastoral abuse was not being discussed. Like I fit the mold of all the examples that society did not see as abuse. See, and that's why I don't keep secrets about my life, because I know that my purpose is to be free, to be all of me for the best you. That's my purpose. What is your purpose? You may not be a mouth like I'm a mouth, but we're all a body part in the family. So, what are you? What is your purpose? And are you living that? And are you living that out loud?
That's so important. So important for us to understand purpose. Because if you don't know the intent, the reason why you do things, you're you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot, like you said. We are human beings, not human doers, if that makes sense. We are supposed to be, and we're supposed to be living on purpose. So it's so important for us to keep in mind. So important for us to keep in mind. And so, one of the things that I truly believe is important when it comes to purpose is that so many of us as working moms, we don't live on purpose. We are struggling with purpose. And I recognize that when we again have the intent, when we know the purpose, we're able to fully rest. We're able to fully rest. And it brings me to the story of Tabitha. In the book of Acts, it shares about a woman named Tabitha who was providing for her community. She was serving for her community. But one day she became ill and died. But because of her good works, the apostle Peter came and he resurrected her and she became well. And she was then able to continue to serve her community and do the great works that she was doing, living on purpose. But like Tabitha, I believe that so many of us are working, we're doing all the things and trying to juggle all the things, but we become physically, emotionally, and spiritually sick, and we need a resurrection. So, was there a time in your life, Dr. Linette, where you became physically, emotionally, and/or spiritually sick, and you needed a resurrection?
Oh, yes. There's been a lot of times. There's been too many times. And I think that actually my immediate response to that is such a clue for us to understand that it's not going to just be one time. That's why this is called life. That's why it's a journey. It's not going to just be one time. It is going to be a continual process of growth. And so I would say that, wow, two times come to me most. One is when my daughter just out of the clear blue became sick, because that having a child who is sick and no one has any answers is one of the worst experiences you can have as a mom, short, of course, of a child passing away. And that was really, really difficult for me. So I have one of each. Spiritually, I lost my relationship with God after I left that husband. I lost my relationship. I did not trust God. I did not believe God. I wasn't even sure if there was a God anymore because I just could not wrap my mind around how this loving God that everyone told me about could allow something like that to happen at the hands of one of his shepherds and to someone like me who had never done anything seemingly wrong or intentionally harmful to others. I couldn't get it. So spiritually, I was dry. I was completely dry, and that needed to be resurrected. Mentally and emotionally, I was clearly spent because I lived at the hands of a narcissist for 7 years. So emotionally, I was dry. Mentally, I was dry. And all of that dryness, it's just like having a bank account that has no money in it, and you go to that ATM because you need some money. You need gas to get to work. You need money to buy food, and you keep putting that card in the machine, and it keeps telling you you are overdrawn. You are not getting any money out of this machine today. That was how I lived every day, still getting the degrees, still serving clients amazingly well. That's the catch here. I graduated with 3.9 GPA from law school, but I was completely dry in every area of my existence. And so then it comes to physical. And so over these last 2 years, I have all of the sudden been sick. No answers as to why I'm sick. I've been going to the doctor, I've been going to specialists, I cannot tell you how many doctors, how many times I've been poked and prodded and pushed into machinery with them trying to figure out what is wrong, with me losing weight crazy for no reason, no diabetes, and no that like they have tested everything they can come up with. And yet I am sick. My whole body is tingling all the time from head to toe. I have these headaches, all these things. And so about a month or so ago, God showed up. Not that he wasn't there all along, and not that I hadn't been being used by him. And I need y'all to hear me. I have been being used by God all along and intentionally. If God came to me and told me to tell someone something, I did it. See, you have to hear the difference. People think that because you're dry, because you don't know if God is there, that it means you're not walking with Him. No, I was walking with Him every day, all day. I was changing people's lives with the messages that God gave me to give them. But I was not able to allow God to change my life. You can be used by God to help other people and still not be open to receiving that which is for you. And I couldn't receive what was for me because I was in too much pain. And all of that trauma and all of that hurt and all of that, let's circle back to forgiveness. It was unforgiveness. So all of that trauma, pain, hurt, fear, and unforgiveness was taking residence in my body. As we speak right now, well, hopefully, when you hear this, is not the truth. But as I speak it right now, I am suffering physically. My kidneys are doing something that is making no sense to my doctors. And the number one place that unforgiveness lives is in your kidneys. And you better know it. If you have something going on with your body, you need to go research. Spiritually speaking, where do certain things live in your body? I've had to do the research because my doctors don't know what to tell me to do. I have to listen to God now. I have to hear my spirit guides leading me so I know how to heal myself because God gives us free will. He absolutely can heal my body, but he can't heal it if I'm not going to let him. He can't heal it if I'm blocking. He can't. This doesn't work like that. So I am literally walking through what you're talking about right now. I had to learn what unforgiveness truly means so that I can set my body free of this internal bondage that doesn't belong to me. And that's the part I want y'all to hear. Man, I told y'all so much nuggets, right? This doesn't belong to me. It may have happened to me, but it doesn't belong to me. And when I understood that, when I really understood that, then I was able to forgive him. I was able to forgive me, and I was able to forgive God. And now my life begins again.
New life, new life, new life. We are decreeing, declaring healing over your entire body, Dr. Linette, in the name of Jesus. Yes. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your Tabitha moment and what you are currently experiencing. And we know with God, who is Jehovah Nisi, who is Jehovah Rapha, he is Jehovah El Roy. Not only does he see you, not only is he Jehovah Jireh, your provider, but he is a healer. So we are decreeing and declaring healing over you in the name of Jesus. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I know somebody is blessed by that because so many of us are going through things that are they're unexplainable. You cannot identify, you cannot explain, science cannot define what is going on in the human body. Only God can. Only God can. And sometimes that takes us to sit still and be so that we can hear from him and gain that vision, gain that resolution that he's always wanted us to have. So I want to say thank you for sharing you with us today. Thank you for sharing you with us today. Where can we learn more about all your initiatives and stay connected to you?
Thank you for asking. And I am everywhere, honestly. Probably Googling me will be the easiest thing because you'll find it all. However, if you go to LynetteMontae.com, I try to keep that page updated with everything that I have going on because there's always some new initiatives happening. My baby right now is Intercultural Voices. And so please go to interculturalvoices.com, follow us on social media. I think that it is so important that we understand that we, the bridge, as a collective, as relationship building, we collectively are going to be needed to get wherever it is that we desire to go next. We cannot do it alone. We weren't designed to do it alone. And so, whatever journey, whatever initiative I'm involved in that you're interested in being part of, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me anywhere. LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. You might have to wait a while if you message me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm just telling the truth now. So
Yes, thank you so very much. We so greatly appreciate you being here. And I want to say thank you to every one of you who are joining us for this episode. I want you to remember that God is telling you in this season of life that you need rest. Just as Dr. Lynette said that we need to be because we're human beings, God wants us to be. He wants us to rest in Him. To do that, He gives us a very simple command in Psalms chapter 34, verse 8, which says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in Him." Go to God today, take refuge in Him, knowing that He is your rock, He is your firm foundation. Join us next time as we continue on this topic of rest. And don't forget to bless another working mom by sharing this episode with her so she can gain the aha empowering moment to rest. Until next time, may God bless you and may you always rest in Him. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Empowering the Working Mom podcast. As you reflect on the empowering moments, remember that you are not alone in this journey. It takes a whole village to be a working mom. Discover how big your village is by joining fellow working moms in our private Empowering Working Mom online community, where we continue this conversation and support each other every step of the way. Until next time, you got this because God has you.